The first thing you notice is the ceiling. White. Institutional. The specific texture of a ceiling that has never been meant to be looked at for long, the kind of surface that exists purely to be above things. You stare at it for what feels like a long time. You are aware, in a distant and clinical way, that you are lying down, that there is a pillow under your head, that something is attached to your left arm. You turn your head. A hospital room. Private. One window with the blinds mostly closed. A thin line of daylight cutting across the floor. A chair beside the bed. A monitor to your right with numbers on it that mean nothing to you. A door, closed. A get well card on the bedside table, just one, propped against a water jug. You wait for the next thing to arrive. The thing that always comes after the ceiling. The memory of how you got here. The accident, the pain, the moment before, the narrative thread that connects you to this room. It doesn't come. You wait longer. Nothing. Not fragments. Not blur. Not the fuzzy partial recall of someone coming out of anesthesia. Just nothing. A clean white wall where the last however many hours or days should be. You sit up slowly. The monitor beeps. The door opens almost immediately. Too immediately, as if someone was waiting just outside it. And a nurse comes in with a smile that is professional and warm and contains, underneath both of those things, something else. She says, "Oh good, you're awake. We've been expecting you." Not hoping. Not relieved. Expecting. Level 1, what you know. Let's establish what you have. Your name. You know your name. First, last, the way it sits in your mouth when you test it. Familiar, yours, not a word you have to think about. Your age. 34. Where you live, an apartment in a city, the address comes to you with the automatic ease of something deeply embedded. Your job, something in finance, a specific role that your mind produces without effort. Parents. You have them, 2 of them, names and faces, a house from your childhood with a particular smell. A sibling, older, a specific memory of a birthday maybe 12 years ago. A life. You have a life. The architecture of it is present and intact. The rooms, the relationships, the accumulated furniture of 34 years of being a person. What you don't have is the last section of it. Not days. You will discover in the next hour that it is not days. The nurse tells you that you were admitted 4 days ago, that you have been unconscious for most of that time, that your attending physician will be in shortly to explain everything. You ask what happened to you. She smiles the smile again and says the doctor will explain. You ask if anyone has been contacted. Family. Friends. She says arrangements have been made and that you shouldn't worry. You ask to see your phone. There is a pause, brief, controlled, the pause of someone who has prepared for this question, and she tells you that your belongings are being held for safekeeping and that the doctor will be in very soon. The door closes. You look at the get well card. You open it. It says, in handwriting you don't recognize. Everything is fine. Don't ask too many questions yet. A friend. Level 2, the doctor. The doctor arrives 20 minutes later. His name is Dr. Okafor. He is calm, measured, the kind of professionally reassuring that has been trained rather than felt. He reviews the monitor, makes notes, asks you a series of questions, standard neurological assessment, tracking cognition, memory, orientation. You answer everything correctly. Your cognition is intact. Your memory is intact for everything prior to your admission. He explains what happened to you. You were found, he says, in a public space. He names a street, not far from where you live, in a state of acute distress. No physical trauma. No substances in your system. The working diagnosis is a dissociative episode triggered by acute psychological stress. The amnesia covering the period immediately before your admission is consistent with this diagnosis. It is not uncommon. It is, in most cases, temporary. You ask him what kind of psychological stress. He looks at you for a moment before answering. He says that your treatment team believes it may be counterproductive to introduce specific information too quickly. That memory recovery in dissociative cases is often better supported by a gradual, supported process rather than an information dump in a hospital bed. You ask him who your treatment team is. He names himself and a consulting psychiatrist whose name you don't recognize. You ask who called the hospital, who found you on the street. He says the intake documentation lists an anonymous caller. You ask for the intake documentation. He says he will see what he can arrange. He leaves. The pause before every answer was the same length. Controlled. Prepared. You are not being treated. You are being managed. Level 3, the gaps. You spend the rest of that day doing the only thing available to you. You think. You map what you have. Your life up to a point, call it the edge, is complete. Detailed. You can move through it freely. Your childhood, your education, your career, your relationships. All present, all accessible, all yours. The edge is approximately 3 weeks ago. You know this because the last clear memory you have is specific. A Sunday evening, your apartment, a meal you cooked, a phone call with your older sibling that lasted about 20 minutes and covered nothing important. The ordinary texture of a life that had no idea it was about to become a before. What happened in the 3 weeks between that Sunday and this hospital room is gone. Not all memory loss is the same. You know this not from medical training, just from the general knowledge that a 34-year-old collects over a lifetime. Trauma can produce gaps. Certain medical events. Certain substances. Certain forms of extreme stress, as Dr. Okafor said. But here is what you keep returning to. The nurse was expecting you to wake up. The card was already there, written before you regained consciousness, by someone who knew you would and had something to tell you when you did. The doctor's answers were rehearsed. Your phone is being held somewhere. This is not a hospital room where someone is recovering from something that happened to them by accident. This is a hospital room where someone has been placed. The question, the one that is going to drive everything that comes next, is whether you were placed here to be protected or to be contained. Level 4, the visitor. On the second day, you have a visitor. You are not told in advance. The door simply opens and a woman walks in, mid-40s, composed, dressed in the way that serious people dress when they want to communicate that they are not there in any official capacity. She sits in the chair beside your bed without being invited to. She does not introduce herself immediately. She looks at you for a moment the way someone looks at a person they have been thinking about for longer than you have known they exist. Then she says, "You don't remember me." It is not a question. You tell her you don't. She nods as if this confirms something she already knew. She tells you her name, call her Marion, and she tells you that 3 weeks ago, the two of you met for the first time. That you found her, specifically, after what she describes as a significant amount of effort on your part. That in the 3 weeks between that first meeting and this hospital room, the two of you had several conversations. That those conversations covered things that, in her words, certain people would prefer you not remember. You ask her who certain people are. She says that's a longer conversation and she doesn't know how much time she has. You ask her what you found out. She looks at the door, then back at you. She says, "Enough to end up here, and enough that they need you not to remember it more than they need you gone. Which is the only reason you're still alive and not in a condition where memory is the least of your problems." She stands. She takes a folded piece of paper from her jacket and slides it under your water jug. She says, "The amnesia may not be entirely natural. When you get your phone back, don't use it for anything that matters. And when they discharge you, and they will discharge you soon because keeping you here is becoming a liability, go to the address on that paper before you go home." She leaves. The chair is still warm. Level 5, the moral architecture. Stop. Because here is where we have to be honest about the shape of what you're in. You woke up in a room with no memory and a card that told you not to ask questions. You have a doctor whose answers are rehearsed, a phone that has been taken, and a visitor who appeared and disappeared like someone who knows they are being watched. You have a 3-week gap in your life that contains, apparently, something significant enough that certain people need it to stay a gap. And you have no way to verify any of it. That's the part you have to sit with. Marion could be telling the truth. Marion could be the mechanism of something else entirely, the person sent to introduce a specific narrative into a confused and vulnerable mind, to point you in a particular direction for reasons that have nothing to do with your protection. The doctor could be managing you for your own good. The phone could be held because of a standard hospital protocol you've never encountered before. The card could be from a friend who heard you were in hospital and wrote something they thought was reassuring and inadvertently produced the most suspicious 6 words in the English language. You do not know. And this is the specific terror of waking up in a room where your own memory cannot be used as evidence, where the people around you have more information about your recent life than you do, and where the line between being protected and being controlled is a line you cannot currently see. The only tool you have is your reasoning. Everything before the edge is intact. You are not confused. You are not incapable. You just can't remember. And someone somewhere may be depending on that. Level 6, your options. You are going to be discharged tomorrow. Dr. Okafor told you this morning in the same measured tone, with the same rehearsed spacing between answers. You are medically stable. Your cognition is intact. Outpatient follow-up will be arranged. You have tonight and tomorrow morning. And you have 4 choices about how you walk out of this room. Option 1. Comply and recover. You accept the diagnosis. You accept the explanation. You go home, you attend the outpatient follow-up, you give your brain the time and safety that dissociative recovery actually requires. Maybe the memory comes back on its own. Maybe Marion was a well-meaning stranger or something your stressed mind misread entirely. Maybe the card was clumsy kindness. You let the medical process do what it is designed to do, and you live your life while you wait to find out what the last 3 weeks were. The risk. If Marion was telling the truth, you walk back into your life without understanding what you walked into before. And whatever it was will still be there, waiting whether you remember it or not. Option 2. Go to the address. Marion gave you a piece of paper. You go where it points before you go home. You find out what she was trying to tell you on her terms, in a location she chose. Maybe it's the truth. Maybe it's a trap. But it's the only thread you have that leads toward the 3 weeks rather than away from them. Option 3. Go to someone you trust before anything else. Not the address. Not home. Your sibling. Your last memory before the edge was a phone call with them. 20 minutes, nothing important, ordinary. They are the last person you remember trusting completely. You go to them first, you tell them everything that has happened in this room, and you let someone who knew you before the edge help you figure out what happened during it. The risk. If whatever you found 3 weeks ago involved people with reach, bringing your sibling into it before you understand it may not protect either of you. Option 4. Try to recover the memory yourself. You are not a passive recipient of your own neurology. Marion said the amnesia may not be entirely natural. If it was induced chemically, procedurally by whatever methods exist that you don't have full knowledge of, then there may be edges to it. Soft spots. Places where the wall is thinner. You have tonight alone in this room. You have your intact memory up to the edge. You start at the edge and you push. You reconstruct everything you can about the 3 weeks from the outside, your habits, your routines, what you would have been working on, who you would have been in contact with. You build the room from the furniture that's missing. It may produce nothing, or it may produce the one detail that makes everything else make sense. Level 7. What memory actually is. Here is the thing about memory that nobody explains until you lose a piece of it. Memory is not storage. It is not a filing cabinet or a hard drive or a recording. It is a living reconstruction. Every time you remember something, you are rebuilding it from component pieces, influenced by everything you currently know and feel and believe. Memory is not what happened. Memory is your current best model of what happened, assembled fresh each time you reach for it, which means 2 things that are both true and uncomfortable. First, memory can be disrupted, manipulated, chemically suppressed, or surgically altered in ways that leave no obvious trace and produce gaps that feel, from the inside, like natural forgetting rather than anything that was done to you. Second, even if your memory returns completely, you cannot be certain that what you remember is what happened. You can only be certain that it is what you remember. And those 2 things are not the same. You are sitting in a hospital room with an intact life before 3 weeks ago and a blank space where 3 weeks should be. Someone left you a card before you woke up. A woman came and left a piece of paper and a warning. A doctor has been managing your questions with the precision of someone who was briefed. You do not know if you are a patient. You do not know if you are a witness. You do not know if you are a threat to someone or an asset to someone, or simply a person who stumbled into something 3 weeks ago and whose amnesia is the most convenient possible outcome for everyone in that situation except you. What you know is this: the version of you that walked into the last 3 weeks was looking for something. was willing to find Marion, whoever she is, through significant effort, was willing to have conversations that certain people need you not to remember. That version of you made choices. And when you walk out of this room tomorrow, you have to decide whether you trust the choices that version of you made, the one who knew what you've forgotten, or whether you start over from the ceiling. Closing, the question. Here's where we leave you. Tomorrow morning, a discharge form. A city outside that contains, somewhere in the last 3 weeks, whatever it was you found out. Whatever was worth a hospital room and a managed doctor and a card from a stranger and a woman named Marion with a piece of paper and a warning. You don't know what you knew, but you know that you knew something. And here is the question that lives underneath all of it. The one that is bigger than Marion and bigger than the 3-week gap and bigger than whoever certain people are. If the version of you that found the truth chose to keep going despite the risk, chose to meet Marion, chose to have the conversations, chose to follow whatever thread led to that street where you were found in a state of acute distress, what does it mean to wake up and choose differently? Is that safety? Is that wisdom? Or is it a betrayal of the person you were before the ceiling? You get to decide who you are when you walk out of that door. The question is whether you decide with your eyes open or your eyes closed. And whether, somewhere in the back of your mind, the version of you that knew everything is waiting, just past the edge, to tell you which one it would choose. Drop it in the comments. Because this question, who do you trust when you can't trust your own memory, doesn't stay in hospital rooms. Follows you home.